We're on page 59 and paragraph 72, towards the end of paragraph 72, if you're using the paragraph system. And the Ramchal is going to summarize what we learned about Chiyas HaMeisim, Gan Eden, which means the Olam HaNeshamas, the Guf. Everybody be patient, B'li Neder, either later this week or next week, perhaps later this week. We're going to get into the next section of the Daas Tevunos, where he's going to explain what is a Guf and what is a Neshama. Remember, this began with the 3 questions about man's existence. And then it went to man's existence, the last stage, which is man's existence is Neshama and Guf at birth, Neshama and Guf separating after 120 years, Neshama and Guf coming back together at Chiyas HaMeisim. So he went to the last stage for the Ramchal's logic. If you understand the Tachlis, you can work backwards. Then he's going to go to the original questions. What is a Guf? What is a Neshama? When I say that the Guf is dense and dark, what does it mean it's dense and dark? I've used the words, and he's going to get into that. When I say Neshama is spiritual, what does all that mean? And he's going to define these things in the next chapter. But now he's going to sort of wrap up what we've learned just now. Bottom of page 59, Nuntes. Nafka mina. What we've learned from all this, Sheshoresh Godel Tzorech Shegia L'Neshama Mitzad Atzma. God created in the neshama with tremendous potential. It has built-in potential that it can shine, that 100 watts, that it will shine l'asid lava when it goes back into that body that's decomposed and now resurrected without the infection of Eitz Hadas Tov V'Ra in it. It has already that 100-watt potential, but it's not going to go into the body with that 100 watts, because then it would convert the body right away into perfection, and we wouldn't have a system of perfectly imperfect, perfecting the perfectly imperfect world so that you can get to Olam Haba, because that would be free lollipops. You wouldn't be making choices, you wouldn't earn it. So, but the Rebbeinu Shalom created the neshama with a tremendous potential to be a light to the guf. Avol mashpilin osa, lahagbia osa uleitiva bachrisa, basum oleha odein baruch hu eschuka ilema, lechi umaati es atzmer likones beguf ha'achur hazeh, b'liyos boy kol yemei chaya evlo. Again, the Ramchal is using those words, which is what God, as we mentioned several times in the last few days, God told the moon, when the moon complained that God, you said that the sun will rule day and the moon will rule night. Well, you can't have 2 rulers with 1 crown. The Rebbeinu Shalom said, you're right. Go and make yourself smaller. You're not going to be as big as you were going to be. We'll have a big one and a small one. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, temporarily. The Psukim tell us that in the future the moon will be as great as the sun, and the sun will be even greater. So the moon, although right now it doesn't have its full wattage, it will get to its full wattage. Similarly, a neshama. The Rebbeinu Shalom says to neshama when it goes into the guf, we're going to reduce your wattage so you can go into the guf. If you go into the guf, there'll be no work to do. You have no work to do. The guf has no work to do, and the only thing it can do is let you into Olam Haba as a free lollipop. That's not the system I'm creating. So Rebbeinu Shalom said, neshama, we're going to reduce your wattage, go into this dense, dark body, and live with this dense, dark body, kol yemei chaya hevel, during all the lifetime, the chaya hevel, quote unquote, hevel, a waste. Why does he call it hevel? We're going to leave that here. This is a term used in many Sforim, and in Meretz Hashem, we're going to see this Thursday or on Sunday when we get to the Rambam Hilchos Tshuva, and we see Rav Kook in Hilchos Tshuva. We're going to learn about this word hevel. And Shlomo HaMelech used this word hevel in Koheles. Havel havolim oma Koheles, havel havolim hakol havel. The whole thing is a big waste of time. whatever he's talking about. But this was a prominent word in Jewish thought. Hevel, waste of time. People spend precious time wasting time. We'll see that in the Rambam. So Rebbeinu Shalom says to the neshama, do the best you can. I'm reducing your wattage. You're going into a dense, dark body. Stay with this dense, dark body for 120 years and work with it during this entire lifetime of Hevel. This entire lifetime where Hevel will be all around you and you'll have to fight the Hevel. V'sham sam lachok mishpat. Poetically, it's a pasuk in the Torah. Kol haTorah zois la'avd l'shamra. Ela advam ashiach la biyoseh b'guf hazeh. And the Rebbeinu Shalom made certain laws for the neshama. If you want to perfect that perfectly imperfect body, and you want to further perfect yourself, you're going to do it through Torah, mitzvahs, and avodas Hashem. The Torah and the mitzvahs and avodas Hashem are tools in order to ultimately do the Ratzon Hashem. The Ratzon Hashem is the Rebbeinu Shalom created a perfectly imperfect world for us to join him in creation and perfect the world. When we understand that and we guide our lives to perfect a perfectly imperfect self, a perfectly imperfect world by perfecting our perfectly imperfect self, we are doing the Ratzon Hashem. That's the only tachlis for which God sent the neshama in the guf, and the neshama to have tools to work on this dark, dense dust guf was given Torah u'mitzvahs. That is avodas Hashem. You're serving God by fulfilling the will of God, and the will of God is to join him in perfecting the perfectly imperfect world. For Omnam, however, mipnei shekvar tosh kocha v'cholash ora, turning to page Samach, harav, b'mi'ut hazeh, nisher haguf ocha kasher hu hayom hazeh, v'av al pi shi b'socha. Because the neshama has been reduced in its wattage, even when it goes into this guf, the guf is going to remain to a certain degree dark and dense. The Eitz Hadas Tovara infection in there cannot be overcome in phase one of man's life, the Olam Hazeh phase. The neshama can do its best. Torah, mitzvahs can do all these things and lift up the guf, and the neshama can lift itself up to a higher level of perfection, as we'll see. But to actually finish the job, for the neshama to say, Gamarti, I did it. I can perfected the guf. Can't do it. Can't do it while it's Eitz Hadas Tovara. However, based upon what a person does in phase one of life, meaning in Olam Hazeh, how much Torah, how many mitzvahs, the God will judge that neshama in the Olam HaNeshamas. Take a look at footnote 140. Rav Friedlander explains we're talking about the Olam HaNeshamas. Al yidei zeh haneshama muchana l'tafkicha l'zakas l'guf b'zman atchiyah. While the neshama is in that, what we call the parking lot, it's in the Olam HaNeshamas in Gan Eden. In that place, the Rebbeinu Shalom is able, the Rebbeinu Shalom gives the neshama rejuvenation and gives the neshama the light that it truly deserves. It was at 80 when it was in the guf. Now it can rejuvenate itself. It can go back to the 100. And not only that, it may be able to go to 110 and 120 because it will have reached new levels through the Torah and the mitzvahs it did in its lifetime. Everybody be patient. We're going to see this later, how the neshama itself can perfect itself. Although it started perfect, remember, there's no perfectly perfect thing except the Rebbeinu Shalom himself. So even the neshama, as perfect as it is relative to the perfectly imperfect guf, it too can attain higher levels of perfection. And there, in the Olam HaNeshamos, the neshama is going to go through a process where God will judge the neshama based upon what it did in its lifetime while it was in the guf. Asher b'boa shenis b'guf b'archadash. When the neshama for a second time, b'boa shenis, when the neshama comes for a second time into the body with new light, 100 watts, 120 watts, whatever it is, Hine tase bo ma she'en yachol lasis ata. Then at the second time the neshama comes back into the guf, it can complete the job that it couldn't complete the first time it was in the guf in Olam Hazeh. And what's the completion of that job? It is going to purify it in the most purest way, depending upon the level of where the neshama got. Obviously, a neshama that has 140 watts, based upon the Torah and Ma'is and Tovim it did during its lifetime, is going to do more to the guf than a neshama that got only to 115 watts, based upon the Torah and Ma'is and Tovim in its lifetime. Both of them, the 115 watt neshama in guf and the 140 watt neshama in guf, are both going to go into Olam Haba, but they're going to have different places in Olam Haba. To return the body into a pure, respectable, clear, transparent thing. Clear. Instead of the dense darkness, the body is going to become transparent, and the light of the neshama can shine through it, like Moshe's had a shine to his face. Moshe b'yanu, as I explained. Ki mashe betchila, kedei lavo b'guf ha'yisatzricha l'mayet ayra. Because this which at the beginning, in order for the neshama to go into the guf, God said, we're going to reduce your wattage. The second time the neshama comes into the guf, adarabah, just the opposite. Now that second time, the neshama is going to come into the guf with its full light, so that it can complete the job and complete perfecting that perfectly imperfect guf. You can see in the next paragraph, the Friedlander's heading is the Ramchal is going to address how the neshama itself can further perfect itself during this process. All you need Yeshua Shav Yeshuas, all you need Nechama Shav Nechamas, all you need Refuah Shav Refuahs, all you need whatever brachas they need. Rebbeinu Shalom should send them the brachas Yeshuas, Refuahs, Nechamas. Only the Rebbeinu Shalom can send it. He sends it when he wants, how he wants, through he wants, in the method he wants, and only he's going to decide how that happens. That's the Echad Yachad Miyuchad about the Rebbeinu Shalom that we understand, we absorb into our hearts. That this is an absolute objective truth, the Echad Yachad Miyuchad, and by doing that to ourselves, for ourselves, we bring the Gilui HaYichad into our lives. And by bringing the Gilui HaYichad into our lives, we benefit not ourselves, we benefit the whole community, we benefit the whole world as bringing a Gilui HaYichad to the world. And eventually there'll be enough Gilui HaYichad from Mashiach from here remaining to come, and to finish the Gilui HaYichad, to build the Beis HaMikdash, as we talked about Masechta Midas, to bring a Korban Tamid, as we learned in Masechta Tamid, and to bring a Machtas HaShekel, as we're learning about in Masechta Shkolim. Everybody, please take care of yourselves. Go to places that you need to go to with proper precautions as required. Don't go to places you don't have to go. Rebbeinu Shalom loves Yidden that learn Midas, Tamid, Shkolim, they learn and do mitzvahs and continue, bring about a Gilui HaYichad to the world. Everybody have a wonderful day. Sei gesund. Just a reminder, me at Shem on Thursday, I'll have Shmuel send out a reminder. We'll set the schedule a little differently, but we're going to build into the schedule. The Rosh Chodesh El, we'll start looking at some Rambam Hilchas Tshuva, and along with that, Rav Kook's commentary in the Orat HaTshuva. I want to thank, in the name of many people here, Levi Blumenfeld, who went last night and made deliveries to people who had ordered the Mishnah Behira. Thank you on behalf of all those people who received the Mishnayos from you. You should have Broch and Hatzlocha. Shmuel, who continues with scanning and downloading and uploading and WhatsApp, and Yaakov as well. Brocha and Hatzlocha to all of you as you continue helping us learn about Mashiach Tzidkenu. We're learning about Mashiach Tzidkenu here every day, whether it's we're learning about how to build a Beis HaMikdash, how to bring the Korban Tamid, how to collect Machtas HaShekel. We're sitting here and learning about Beis HaMikdash. And what is the effect of that? And some people have told me, I encourage you. I get emails. People are saying that they're learning with their children Masechta Midas, and they're going and they're learning with their grandchildren. They're taking out Midas diagram 3 and they're showing it to them, and they're learning with them and they're talking to them. Let the subject matter be based on Mikdash. My father-in-law, Zechrono Levracha, once said to me, in those days there was no art scroll. In those days, the English Siddur was the Philip Birnbaum Siddur, for those who remember. Philip Birnbaum was a blue-covered Siddur, Hebrew, English. And then they had the Machzor. I think the Machzor was a Machzor Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, I think it was burgundy. It was Philip Birnbaum. And that was used by the Orthodox community in those days. Now, my father-in-law said to me that what Lubavitcher Rebbe did for Mashiach is that he took him off the page of the Philip Birnbaum Siddur and made him not a line in the Siddur, but made him something that people can start talking about. We talked about that earlier today, Rabbi Yerucham Lubavitz. And we have this in our siddhis, and some of us say all the 13 principles of faith every day, as we say so many things, etc., etc. But it's printed in the siddur, and when it got printed in English, said it in English. Those who need to say in English say, I believe with a perfect faith that the Messiah is coming. The Lubavitcher Rebbe took Mashiach off the page of the Philip Birnbaum and said he's real. He's not a novel. He's not a fiction. He's not a nonfiction. This is real. Take him off the page and make him real. The Lubavitcher Rebbe started a discussion. People talk about Mashiach. We want Mashiach. We want Mashiach now. Make it into a song. Talk Mashiach. Talk about these things. Talk Beis HaMikdash. So, you've seen several times in the last couple of months, I had a granddaughter that would walk Chaya Penina, Meir Vessin Shana would walk into the room as I was saying shir. My daughter and my son-in-law, Chaya Penina, Meir Vessin Shana, Gesundta Hom Mishpacha, they were with us for a while. They were in Yerushalayim. At one point they were in Romema, and there were high numbers in Romema. At any rate, they came to Beit Shemesh. They were with us for a while. And for whatever reason, Chaya Penina, the 2.5-year-old, would enjoy watching Zaidi give a shir. She wouldn't listen to the whole shir, but she enjoyed watching Zaidi say the shir. And sometimes she would walk in the door, and you would see her behind me. They went home back to Yerushalayim 2 days ago, and yesterday I got an email from my daughter. And my daughter wrote to me as follows. Penina said to me and Zev tonight by supper, I am a sad girl. There's a 2.5-year-old saying I'm a sad girl. That got her parents real nervous. So why is she sad? So we asked her, why are you a sad girl? And Penina said to us, because I want the Beis HaMikdash. Now this is what we can do to our children and grandchildren. We can create a generation that yearns for Mashiach, and that's what we're doing here. So I encourage all of you, and I know some of you are already doing it. Diagram 3 meters, Shabbos table, look at it, review it, talk about it with your wife. Your wife talks about it with her friends. You talk about it to your friends. Talk about it to your relatives. Talk about Korban Tomei. Talk about the Ezus Noshim. Talk about the Azorah. Talk about the Heichel. Talk about the 4 lotteries, talk about the lottery, the winners of the lottery, talk about Shkolim, bring the Shkolim, can a Kohen bring a Matzah and Shekel, is he allowed to, should he? This conversation itself is a conversation that's needed today in Klal Yisrael, to make these things alive, not intellectual, but to make them alive. Take them off the page, as my father-in-law said, make them alive. So this is the opportunity we have. We live Baruch Shem in Eretz Yisrael, children, grandchildren, bring it alive for them. Everybody have a wonderful day. Sei gesund. We're going to have a question, what kind of Rosh Hashanah will we have if we cannot attend davening in Shul Chas v'Shalom? I'm not sure what that question means. If that question means if women cannot attend davening in Shul, is this a woman question? because I see that certain shuls are not going to allow women to come to shul on Rosh Hashanah. They're going to use the whole shul for men. I'm not sure if that's what the question is addressed to, or if the question is addressed generally, what do we do if we can't come into a shul? If you can't come into a shul, then you can daven. There are many outside minyanim. You yoytze tefillah, and you yoytze kriyas HaTorah, and you'll be yoytze tekiya shofar with an outdoor minyan. As I said from the beginning, I said this Purim time, let's start focusing on yearning for the Beis HaMikdash. People are crying, can I go back to shul? We talked about this, I'm not going to repeat it, I said it so many times. Can we convert the tears into Tisha B'Av tears? The Tisha B'Av tears are, Rebbe Shalom, give me back the Beis HaMikdash. And then after Tisha B'Av is over, the tears become, Rebbe Shalom, can I go back to shul? Let the Tisha B'Av tears be the Tisha B'Av tears of a Yid. It's 2,000 years. It's 2,000 years. The Navi said, I'm going to give you a mini Beis HaMikdash called the shul. And everybody is yearning to go back to shul. Let us yearn and pray. Not we're saying it for 2,000 years, and as Rabbi Yehuda Halevi writes in the Kuzari, when the Kuzari king confronted him and said, you people daven for the Eretz Yisrael, you people daven for the Beis HaMikdash, why are you scattered around the world? Why aren't you going back to Eretz Yisrael? This is a guy asking the Kuzari. The Kuzari asking Rabbi Yehuda Halevi. Yehuda Halevi said the famous words, it's Kizar Zir. You're right. We just say these words like a bird. You know, if you have a bird, you can teach a bird how to say hello. That's how Jews daven. So Yehuda Halevi wrote that over 1,000 years ago. That Jews were saying, like a zarzir, like a bird parrots words that he's taught. We don't really mean it. It's 2,000 years. We need to start meaning v'hoshev es havoida lidvir beisecha. And as I said, Purim time, maybe this is one of the things Rebbe Shalom wants to see if we can get our heads wrapped around. Rebbe Shalom, for 2,000 years I went to shul. Rebbe Shalom, I'm outside the shul now. I can't go into shul. And Rebbe Shalom, after 2,000 years of the shul, it was ganz geschmack, it was ganz fine. But now I'm setting my sights high. Give us the Beis HaMikdash. Rosh Hashanah is going to be wonderful. It's going to be terrific. The tefillah should be in this kabel. And Chas v'Shalom Mashiach doesn't come, the tefillahs will still be in this kabel. The Kriyas HaTorah will be fine. The Kiyas Shofar will be fine. There's a shaila here. What's going to be with women? The outside mini that has been running near my house is going to have a machitza. There's going to be women there. Baruch Hashem. There's going to be a place for women. The shuls seem not to be able to accommodate women. I don't know what to say about that, but they made a decision that the whole place needs to accommodate men. People can discuss that any which way they want about taking a shul and locking it up for men only and keeping tefillahs of women that are so necessary for the tefillahs of the men to be niskabel, that the men take up the whole shul and we leave the women at home. Everybody can discuss this as they wish, but there is an issue about keeping the women at home and not women and their importance. Their importance to tefillah is amazing. And telling women, Rosh Hashanah, why don't you stay home? The whole place is only for men. People can discuss that in any which way they want. I'm not a rabbi, I'm sure Baruch Hashem, and people can decide what is appropriate in their eyes and discuss it accordingly. Everybody have a wonderful day. Sei gesund, everybody.